so let's see who all we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I know Chad's gonna be out, so that's 12. So we're missing 2. Let's see. So we're missing Sadie, and who else? We've got Zoe, Mark. Here comes Sadie. All righty. How is everybody today? Everybody had a good week so far? Let me go ahead and pull up a screen real quick. Huh? Was somebody saying something? Sorry. Okay, so what I want to do real quick is we have on Monday, we kind of wrapped up with our graphing stuff. We kind of reviewed all of that. You guys have a graphing packet that if you have not already submitted or emailed to me or whatever, that needs to get turned in. Last night, I emailed you the graphing test. So what I want to do, first of all, I don't know if you've had a chance to pull that up or look at it. Actually, real quick, what we'll do is we'll look at the graphing homework, or the homework from, what was it, page 92? Real quick, let's look at that first. Let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is go ahead and take a look at this. I know I sent it early late last night, so you may not have had a chance to check your work just yet. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. It gave us a graph, and we talked about how when I am given a graph, there are several things that I'm looking for. I know that I've got to look for points if I don't have a y-intercept. So remember, like if you look at the first one, also, whoops. If we look at the first one, I've got 2 different points, and so I'm able to count my slope. And so we can see that my slope is 1. Now here I can also see that the y-intercept is 0. So really, instead of using point slope form, I could have also used my slope intercept form and had, instead of y equals mx plus b, I could have said that, hey, y equals, I found that my slope was 1, so 1x plus 0. Okay, so then when I went to standard form from there, I know that I'm going from y equals mx plus b to ax plus by equals c. So all I would have to do is subtract 1x from each side. So I'd have negative x plus y equals 0. But we've talked about how when I have standard form, I've got to convert. I cannot have a negative for a. So then if I changed all of my signs, I would have x minus y equals 0. So whether I would have started with slope intercept or I did point slope, either way, my standard form is going to be the same. Okay. So any questions on the first graph for activities 2? Anything that you did that you weren't sure about or you weren't sure what to do? Remember that when I'm looking for a graph, my first step is to identify points. Okay. If I have a y-intercept, then that's the easiest place to start and just use slope intercept form. Okay, so I can identify my y-intercept, I can figure out my slope, and I can put it in slope intercept form, then go to standard form. But if I cannot figure out a y-intercept, I just pick 2 points, and I can use one of the 2 points, and I can do point slope form. So that's what I've got here in my second graph. I had 0.11. And then here I've got what is that, 2, negative 1. So I've got my 2 points there. I was able to calculate my slope by just counting it and saying, hey, I'm going down 2, right 1. So that means my slope is negative 2. And then I used 0.11 to plug it in to point slope form. Convert from point slope to standard form. And I end up with 2x plus y equals 3. Any questions on graph 2? All right, the third one, same thing here. I'm looking at my points. I cannot figure out exactly my y-intercept. It crosses over right there, but I don't have a clue at exactly what that number is. Since it's not a 1, a 2, a negative 1, negative 2, I don't have a clue. So I've got to start with my 2 points. So I've got my 1, 0, and then I have negative 1, negative 1. I find that my slope is 1/2. Okay, so then I plugged in using 0.10. And then I end up finding that I've got negative x plus 2y equals negative 1. X has to be positive, so I change all of my signs and end up with x minus 2y equals 1. Any questions on that? Okie doke. Now what we'll do is we will go ahead and take a look at our test, what that's going to look like. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. If you haven't yet, this is what it looks like. The first part of it is matching. So I have information on the left that you will match with the answer on the right. You can see we've got the slope of a horizontal line, the slope of a vertical line. These lines have the same slopes. These lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. Standard form, slope intercept form, point slope form, and slope formula. Okay, so you're going to be matching what is what. In part B, you're going to use the slope formula to find the slopes of the lines containing the following pairs of points. You've been given 2 points. You're going to need to use your slope formula. Show your work. Okay, I want to see your work right there on your paper of how you used your slope formula to solve and find your slope. Okay. Letter C, first convert each equation to slope intercept form. So I'm given an equation. I want to convert to slope intercept form. Then I want you to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Then graph the y-intercept and use the slope to graph additional points on the line. Connect the points using a straight line with arrows on each end. Okay, so step 1, convert to slope intercept. Step 2, graph your y-intercept. Step 3, use your slope to find additional points. Step 4, connect your points with a straight line with arrows. That's what you'll do for 12, 13, and 14. Part D, it says graph, number 1, graph the given point and use the slope to find or to graph additional points. Connect the points using a straight line with arrows on each end. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to graph. You're going to use your point. So like in number 15, you're going to graph 4, 3, then use your slope to find additional points, connect the dots, straight line with arrows. So that's step 1. Step 2 says use the given point and slope to write the equation in point slope form. So now I'm using that slope of 2 and 0.43 to go point slope form. Once I do that, then I'm going to convert from point slope to slope intercept. No, I said that wrong. From point slope to standard form. Okay, and I have show all work. So show your work where you are converting from point slope to standard form. Okay. It could be that you use this workspace here for number 15. You can do number 16 underneath it, number 17 beside it, wherever you need to show your work. You don't necessarily have to have a separate piece of paper. Just label it on your paper where you're working, number 15, 16, and 17. There's plenty of white space for you to convert from point slope to standard form. Part E, the final part, you are given 3 graphs. On that graph, I want you to first identify one of the points on the line. Number 2, I want you to find the slope of the line. Number 3, I want you to write the equation in either slope intercept or point slope form. Remember, slope intercept, I can only use that equation if I have a y-intercept. There's only going to be one of these that you're going to be able to figure out or have a perfect y-intercept. Okay, or one that's completely identified on the chart. So you can either use slope intercept or point slope and then convert to standard form. Okay, so any questions about what we're doing here? All righty, so that is going to wrap up our unit on graphing. Okay, so now we're going to be shifting gears a little bit, and we are going to be moving on to lesson 45 on page 99. So go ahead and open up your book, lesson 45, page 99. Real quick, let's make sure that, let's see, when I sent, this is sent. Let's look at the email that I sent the other day to make sure everybody did get. Okay, so the other day I sent this email. So if you have not gotten it, if you didn't get it in your email, check with your parents to get it and make sure you have. And it says, this lists out all the homework that will be due on next week, next Monday at the co-op. Okay, so it says homework to be turned in on 12/7/20. Be sure to follow the homework guidelines to make 100%. Hopefully everybody's gonna make 100 on this homework. Lesson 38, page 84, activities number 3. We labeled those numbers 4, 5, and 6. It's the bottom 3. Activities 4, we labeled them 1, 2, and 3, but they were still the bottom 3. Lesson 39, page 86, activities 3 and 4. Lesson 40, page 88, activities 2. Lesson 41, page 92, activities 2. So we just checked page 92, activities 2. That was what we just looked over. So all of this homework you should have completed. You should have checked it, make corrections, and this is what's due next Monday at the co-op. Okay, any questions about what homework is due on the 7th? Everybody's good. Awesome. I'm looking forward to everyone getting 100 on this homework. Y'all can do it. There's no reason not to. Okay, and then I put the study guide for the graphing test. Knowing how to graph your ordered pair. These were the notes that we took in class. I just typed them up just to make them a little more concise if you needed it. Know how to find the slope of a line using the slope formula. Use a chart to plug in the values. We actually didn't end up having one of those on the test. Knowing that slope intercept form, we've got y = mx + b. know how to graph the y-intercept and use the slope to find points, connect the points using a straight line with arrows on the end. We've got point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Use that to, and we can identify the slope, a point on the line, graph it. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Vertical lines have no slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. Then we've got standard form. A must be greater than 0. An equation cannot contain fractions or decimals. And then number 9, write equations based on graphs. Identify either the y-intercept or other points on the graph. Identify the slope. Write an equation in either slope-intercept or point-slope forms, and then convert to standard form. Okay, so that's our study guide. That's the things that you need to know before you sit down to work on this test. Okay, the test is also due on Monday. Okay, so all the homework that is due on Monday, you should have already done. And then, so that gives you till Monday to do this test. Any questions about that? Everybody's good with what is due on Monday? Okay, very good. So, like I said, now we're shifting gears, starting with lesson 45. All right, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start just a note page for a minute. Okay, so I want you on page 99 in your book. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take some notes, some general notes about inequalities. I think what we'll do today, I'm going to have an inequality packet to give you guys on Monday. We'll just take some notes and work through a couple of lessons today. And then on Monday, I'm going to give you the packet that will be due. Probably what we'll do is we'll make it due the week after we get out from co-op. And that inequalities packet will count for a test grade. Okay, so the packet I'm going to give you guys in class on Monday on inequalities, we will be working through next week, and then it will be due by the next Thursday. I think that is going to be the 17th. So you will need to make sure that you either submit it online. I'll make sure to put a place on the website so you can either upload it, you can email it, or text it to me. Either way, but it'll be due by the 17th. Okay. But first of all, we're going to start on lesson 45, page 99, talking about inequalities. And I'm going to go ahead and start a note page. And this starts on page 99. And we're actually going to be 99 through 110. Okay, so the pages that we'll be covering with our unit on inequalities is pages 99 through 110. And we're going to start with lesson 45 on page 99. Hang on just a minute. I need to go let my dog in. She's clawing at the back door. Hang on just a sec. All righty. All right, so on page 99, it says inequalities show the relationship between two things that are not equal. When working with inequalities and mathematical expressions, follow these rules. Okay, so it says you may add or subtract the same amount from both sides of the inequality sign. So add or subtract inequalities the same as with an equal sign. Okay. Now it says you may multiply or divide both sides of the inequality sign by the same positive number. So we can multiply or divide inequalities by positive numbers the same as with an equal sign. I'm just going to call it equalities. When I say equalities, that just means when I have an equal sign. Multiply or divide inequalities by positive numbers the same as equalities. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a note from lesson 46 on page 101 that says if you multiply or divide inequalities by a negative number, you must flip the sign. Okay, so lesson 46, we're going ahead and pulling in, and it says if you multiply or divide inequalities by a negative number, you have to flip your sign. Okay, so those are going to be the rules as far as solving inequalities, and we're going to practice with those for just a minute. Let's go ahead and look at classwork 1 on page 99. Let's go back to page 99. And our first one is 5x is less than 30. Real quick at the top of your page, when we say inequalities, let's go ahead and list those out, okay? Remember, I can have greater than, I can have less than, I can have greater than or equal to, I can have less than or equal to, or I can just have not equal to. Those are all of my inequalities. Remember, the word inequality just means not equal. If we're talking about something that's equal, we have an equal sign. So inequality could be greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or just a symbol that's not equal. We're not going to be using that symbol. I don't think we'll be using it at all, but I just want you to know that the not equal sign, that's what it looks like. So when you talk about an inequality, those are all the possibilities that you can talk about. So basically, if we're comparing two numbers, they can either be equal to each other, one can be greater than the other one, and one can be less than the other one. So basically, when I'm looking at something, there's actually three possibilities: greater than, less than, or equal to. Now I can combine greater than or equal to and less than or equal to also, but so just know when I'm looking at those, that's what I'm talking about. All right. So remember we said if I've got 5x is less than 30. Think about if I had 5x equals 30. Okay, think about if you just saw 5x equals 30, you would solve that by saying, hey, 5x means 5 times x. To solve for x, I would divide by 5, so x would equal 6. Okay, when I'm dealing with an inequality, I'm doing the same exact thing here because my rule said if I multiply or divide by a positive number, I'm going to do it just like I do when I have an equal sign. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. except for this time I find that x is less than 6. So think about if I was graphing that, if I said that, hey, I know that x has to be less than 6, and I had my number line. And this is just for reference. You don't have to write this. I'm just showing you. Remember when we were graphing inequalities last year, and we said that if I'm going to graph an inequality, I would have an open circle, and then I'm showing that my numbers could be all of these things right here. So I have an infinite number of solutions again, and I'm showing that x is less than 6. So that means it could be 5.99. That's less than 6. It could be negative 267. I don't know. Okay. So in this unit, we're not going to be graphing, but I just wanted you to show you that when we say x is less than 6, it means that it could be all of those numbers on the number line that are less than 6. Let's look at the next problem. I have 4x plus 5 is greater than 17. So again, I'm going to solve this exactly like I would if I had an equal sign. This is where I think about my reverse order of PEMDAS. Remember, when I'm doing PEMDAS, I've got my order that I go through. When I am solving for a variable, the first thing I start with is, hey, is there anything that is being added or subtracted that needs to be undone first? So I look at it and I say, yeah, I've got plus 5. I know that's where I need to start in solving for x. So I'm going to start out by subtracting 5 from each side. So now I have 4x is greater than, and 17 minus 5 is 12. So now I have 4x is greater than 12. I know that 4x means I'm multiplying. To undo multiplication, I divide both sides by 4. So x is greater than 3. If I was putting that on the number line, I would have my circle at 3 and everything. I would shade everything greater than 3, okay? Because my answers, all of my possible answers is it could be any number larger than 3. Now let's look at the next one. I have x minus 2 is less than negative x plus 8. Okay, again, same thing here. If I had an equal sign, I know that the first thing I would do is I would start. I like to start by moving my variables first. So I want to move that negative x from the right to the left. I move it by adding. Now, when I add variables, remember, if I have x plus x, that's the same as 1x plus 1x. So I add my coefficients. 1 plus 1 is 2. And I keep my variables. So 1x plus 1x is going to be 2x minus 2 is less than 8. So the first thing I did was move my variable. Now I have 2x minus 2 is less than 8. Now I want to say, okay, what do I need to move from the left to the right? And that's going to be that negative 2. So I'm going to move it by adding. And I have 2x is less than 10. I've got multiplication here. I need to undo multiplication using division. So I divide by 2. So x is less than 5. Any questions on those so far? All right, now what I want you to do is go ahead and flip over to page 101. Page 101, let's look at our classwork. The first one I have is negative 4x is less than 20. Now remember, the one note that we wrote from this page is if I multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, I have to flip my sign. So my first step here is I am dividing by negative 4. What I like to do is as soon as I write down that I am multiplying or dividing by a negative number, I go ahead and circle that sign in the middle. That's a visual reminder to help me remember I need to flip my sign. Okay, so if I multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, I've got to flip my sign. So I'm going to end up with x is greater than negative 5. Negative 4x divided by negative 4 leaves me with x. I flip my sign, and 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. Multiplying or dividing by negative means you have to flip your sign. As soon as I see that I'm multiplying or dividing by negative, I go ahead and circle my sign so it helps me remember to flip it in my answer. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Negative 3x plus 5 is greater than 17. Again, I'm going to start everything exactly like I do when I do reverse PEMDAS to solve a problem. I've got negative 3x plus 5 is greater than 17. I need to move that plus 5 from the left to the right. It is positive on the left, so I need to subtract it. So I have negative 3x is greater than 12. All I did was subtract first. Remember, I don't flip my sign adding or subtracting. I do only when I divide or multiply by a negative number. So my next step, I've got negative 3x is greater than 12. I need to divide by a negative 3. Oh my goodness, I divided by a negative 3. I need to change that sign. So I've circled it to help me remember that when I write my answer, I've got to flip that sign. So negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x. I flip my sign, and 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Any questions on that? All right, let's look at the next one. Negative 4x minus 2 is less than x plus 8. First thing I want to start with is moving variables. I want to move my variable from the right to the left. So I've got an x. I need to move it by subtracting. Now I have negative 4x minus x. That is the same as negative 4x minus 1x. Remember that when I'm adding or subtracting variables, my variable is going to keep the same. So I know I'm going to end up with something x. I've got to look and say I've got negative 4 minus 1. I owe mom $4. I just borrowed another $1. Or I start at negative 4 on the number line and I move left 1. So I know that's going to be a negative 5. So negative 4x minus x is negative 5x. Minus 2 is less than 8. Excuse me. Now I need to move that negative 2 from the left to the right. I'm going to move it by adding. So I have negative 5x is less than 10. To solve for x, I know I need to divide by negative 5. Bells and whistles going off, red flags. I'm going, hey, I'm dividing by a negative number. I've got to flip that sign. So as soon as I write that I divide by negative 5, I circle my sign. Negative 5x divided by negative 5 is x. Flip my sign. And 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Any questions? All righty. Let's go back to page 99. And I want you to go ahead and start working on page 99. Let's go ahead and work on the left column, top to bottom, starting with 4x is less than 12. Go down that column on the left-hand side. Okay, go ahead and work on that right now in your book. You don't have to do it on paper, just do it in your book. Okay, so let's go ahead and check that left-hand column. You can see where the first one, you just divide both sides by 4, and you should have ended up with x is less than 3. The one below that, again, dividing both sides by 3, so x is less than 3. The one below that, 5x is greater than negative 15. I'm dividing both sides by 5. I'm dividing by a positive number, okay? So don't let it throw you off. Just because 15 is negative doesn't mean I flip my sign. I'm dividing by a positive number. So 5x is divided by 5, negative 15 is divided by 5, so x is greater than negative 3. Then I have 2x plus 3 is less than 9. I have to subtract 3 from each side and end up with 2x is less than 6. Divide both sides by 2, so x is less than 3. 6x minus 7 is less than 11. I have to add 7 to each side, so I have 6x is less than 18. Divide both sides by 6, so x is less than 3. Any questions on that left-hand side? All righty, so it looks like it is break time. So we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we will come back. All righty. We'll get Betty ready to come back. Does anybody talk to Micah? Anybody know where Micah is today?
I don't know where he is. I think my guess is he's still asleep.
Okay. Very good. Well, hopefully he's watching on Zoom. So hello, Micah. We miss you. All righty. I guess he'll have to watch the recording and get caught up.
Yeah, I tried to call him, but he didn't answer my call or text. So that's
Okay.
I don't know.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and start back with our inequalities. Let's go ahead and let's move over to the right-hand column. I want you to go ahead and work through the right-hand column. We've got multiple steps here. So you're going to have to move things from side to side and then solve for x. Note that in this section, we're still not going to be dealing with any negative divisors. So we're not going to be flipping signs on any of these. So just go ahead and start working on this left-hand column. Be sure to let me know if you get stuck or need help. Okay, so go ahead and check your work. So the first one, you would subtract x from each side. 2x minus 9 is less than 13. So add 9 to each side. 2x is less than 22. Divide both sides by 2. So x is less than 11. The next one, you would subtract 5x from each side. So you have 4x plus 7 is less than 3. Subtract 7 from each side. So you have 4x is less than negative 4. Divide both sides by 4. So x is less than negative 1. The next one, add x to each side. So you have 8x minus 5 is less than 11. Then add 5 to each side. So you have 8x is less than 16. Divide both sides by 8, and x is less than 2. Then we have, we need to subtract 2x from each side. So 4x plus 17 is less than 13. Subtract 17 from both sides. So 4x is less than negative 4. Divide both sides by 4. So x is less than negative 1. And then the last one, I've got to add 3x to both sides. So 7x minus 5 is less than 16. Add 5 to each side. So 7x is less than 21. Divide both sides by 7. And x is less than 3. Any questions on any of those? All righty, let's go ahead and move on over to lesson 46. Let's jump back over to page, what is that, 101? Page 101. We've already done the classwork here. So let's go ahead and take a look at solving these inequalities. Okay, so activities 2, we have negative 3x is less than 27. So I'm going to start by dividing by negative 3. This is where my bells and whistles start going off in my head, red flags. I know that I've got to change my sign. I've got to flip it because I have divided by a negative number. So negative 3x divided by negative 3 leaves me with x. I flip my sign, and 27 divided by a negative 3 is negative 9. Remember, a positive divided by a negative is a negative answer. When I have opposite signs and I'm dividing, my answer is negative. And then 27 divided by 3 is 9. All right, now let's look at the one underneath it. I've got some simplifying that I've got to do before I can start solving. Remember, if I see a number outside of parentheses, that means I need to distribute it. So this 3 has to distribute to each term inside parentheses before I can start solving by moving things from side to side. So the first thing I'm going to do is 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times positive 3 is positive 9. So now I have 3x plus 9 is less than 4x plus 11. Now I start moving my things. So negative 4x, I'm going to subtract 4x from each side. So I have negative x plus 9 is less than 11. Subtract 9 from each side. So I have negative x is less than. Now I have 11 minus 9. Take the sign of the larger, which is positive, and the difference is going to be 2. So I have negative x is less than 2. So in this situation, I don't want to have a negative x. I need to have a positive x. So to get a positive x, that means I have to multiply or divide by negative 1. We can go ahead and multiply everything by negative 1 to change the sign. That means I've got to flip my sign. So x is going to be greater than negative 2. Okay? Whether I would have divided by negative 1 or multiplied by negative 1, either way, I need to flip my sign. So if you end up with an answer where you have a negative x or a negative variable and you need to make it positive, just flip the sign and take the opposite sign of the number afterward. Okay? So now let's go ahead and look at each of these. My first thing I've got to do is distribute my 2. Then I'm also going to have to distribute my 5. So 2x minus 4 is greater than 5x plus 20. Okay, I'm going to subtract 5x from each side. So I have negative 3x minus 4 is greater than 20. Add 4 add 4, I'll move over. So I have negative 3x is greater than 24. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, circle my sign so I don't forget to flip it. So I end up with x is less than 24 divided by negative 3. A positive divided by negative is a negative, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So x is less than negative 8. Now I want you to go ahead and work the next one on your own. Distribute your 5, distribute your 6, and then solve. Okay, so once you finish this problem, go ahead and look at and let's check it. You can see where what I did is I went ahead and solved it 2 different ways on here, just so you could see. Y'all know that typically the way that I go through is I start moving my variables first, and I always move my variables to the left. In these examples, when I move my variable to the left-hand side, I've ended up with a negative variable on my left-hand side. Therefore, I've had to either multiply or divide by a negative to get a positive x, okay? But I wanted to show you that what if I would have moved 5x from the left to the right instead of moving 6x from the right to the left. So I can still do that. I could solve my equation. It doesn't matter. There's no absolute definite has to happen where you put your variable on the left-hand side. That's just my preference. And because you're typically going to see answers in the form of x is equal to something, or x is greater than, or x is less than. You're typically going to see it in that pattern. So I like to go ahead and work it that way. But you could have moved 5x first. And so the flip side of that would be if we would have subtracted 5x from each side and moved it from the left to the right, then I would have negative 15 is less than x minus 18. So then I would have to add 18 to each side because I'm wanting x to be by itself. So I end up with 3 is less than x, okay? So when we look at this, my answer is 3 is less than x. My answer, x is greater than 3, is the exact same answer, okay? So x is greater than 3 is the same as 3 is less than x. Remember, what I'm looking at is which side does my symbol open up to x? And so I just want you to be able to see that you don't have to move your variables to the left-hand side each time, because in this situation, I wouldn't have had to flip because I'm not dividing by a negative number. Now, when I did move 6 from the right to the left, I did end up with a negative number. I had to divide by a negative and end up with a positive x. But either way, I'm going to end up with the same answer. It's going to look different because it's going to be flip-flopped, and but my sign is still opening up. My greater than is going toward the x. Any questions on that? All righty. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and turn over to page 102. 102. We are going to go ahead and do these last two together. And then we will make the first 4 will be for homework, but you can do it in your workbook. You do not have to do it on separate paper. You don't have to do the notes and everything. So this will be homework for 12. Today is second? 3. Today's the 3rd. Homework 12-3. Okay, but let's go ahead and work these first 2 together. Now remember that anytime I'm solving any kind of problem in algebra, I have to use my order of operations, or math period. I've got to use order of operations. So I know I've got to simplify according to the order of operations before I can start moving things around to solve for x. Okay, so earlier we saw that we had something to distribute. This time we've got some operations that we need to take care of inside of parentheses before we can even distribute. Okay, so that means that everything on the left-hand side is just staying put. It's going to stay exactly the same. So I'm going to have minus 11 minus 5x is less than, and I'm going to work with inside my parentheses. I'm going to leave my 5x plus 4 the same. So I'm going to start with dealing with my exponent. And I've got 3 squared there. So remember, 3 squared means I'm going to multiply 3 by itself 2 times. So 3 squared is 9. So now in parentheses, I have 9 minus 3. Again, I'm going to keep simplifying, and the next thing I'm going to do is work on 9 minus 3. So on the left-hand side, I'm just keeping everything exactly the same. So I have 11 minus 5x is less than. 9 minus 3 is 3. No, it's not. It is 6. Good grief. I'm thinking of 9 divided by 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. Now I still have 5x plus 4 in parentheses. So now that I've taken care of that first set of parentheses, I've ended up with the number 6. So now I've got to distribute 6 to each number inside parentheses. So I have negative 11 minus 5x is less than 6 times 5x. When I multiply 6 times 5, that is 30, and I keep my x. So 6 times 5x is 30x, plus 6 times 4 is 24. Once I have everything simplified to where now all I've got to do is either move things from the right to the left or left to right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to move my 30x, just because I'm a creature of habit and I like to move my variables to the left-hand side. Subtract 30x. Now I want to make sure that I write it underneath the same term that has x. So I'm putting it underneath 5x. So I've got negative 11. Now I've got negative 5x minus 30x. I'm just doing negative 5 minus 30. I can either think of it as I start at negative 5 on my number line and move to the left 30 places. So that's going to give me another negative number, or I borrowed $5 from mom and now I've borrowed 30 more, whichever way you want to do it. So negative 35x is less than 24. Remember, I'm trying to get my x terms by itself. So I have a negative 11 on the left-hand side that I've got to move by adding, plus 11. So now I have negative 35x is less than 35. I need to divide both sides by negative 35, divide by negative 35. Dividing by a negative tells me I need to flip my sign. So x is greater than, and then I have a positive divided by negative is a negative, and 35 divided by 35 is 1. Any questions on how we did that? The first thing I needed to do was take care of order of operations to be able to simplify everything before I could start solving. So I simplified my parentheses first. Then I saw that I needed to distribute that number to each term inside parentheses, and then go ahead and solve. Any questions? All right, let's look at the one below it. All right, I have negative 7 plus 7x is greater than 4 squared minus 3 squared times 2x plus 3. So again, I'm going to start working inside my parentheses, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of my two exponents at the same time. Remember, 4 squared means I'm multiplying 4 by itself 2 times. So that's 4 times 4. 3 squared means I multiply 3 by itself 2 times. So that's 3 times 3. Nothing is changing on the left-hand side, so I'm just going ahead and writing it all the same because I can't forget about it. I can't just not write it down and then move on and forget that I've got that left-hand side. So negative 7 plus 7x is greater than 4 squared is 16 minus 3 squared is 9 times 2x plus 3. I'm going to move on down. This time I'm taking care of 16 minus 9. So I keep negative 7 plus 7x is greater than 16 minus 9 is going to be 7 times 2x plus 3. Now I see that I need to distribute my 7 to each term inside parentheses. So negative 7 plus 7x. Notice that that's just stayed the same every single step of the way so far. 7 times 2x is 14x plus 7 times 3 is 21. Now I've got everything simplified, so I can start moving from left to right or right to left. I'm going to start by subtracting 14x minus 14x. I have negative 7 minus 7x is greater than 21. Add 7, add 7. Negative 7x is greater than 28. Divide by negative 7, divide by negative 7. Circle that sign so I don't forget to flip it. So x is less than negative 4. Any questions on those? All right, so like I said, the first 4 are going to be for homework. Now I want to go ahead and look at this bottom section. This is a review. Remember that when we were clearing denominators, we had to multiply my entire equation by the denominator. But if I had more than one denominator, I had to clear it by a number that will that both numbers will divide into. Now, all of these are dealing with x's. So remember, if I have x and then x squared, then I have to use x squared as my common denominator to multiply everything by. But we're going to go ahead and start with the first one. And I have 9 plus 4 divided by x equals negative 7. So the first thing I can do is I can go ahead and move my 9. So remember, when I'm going to be solving for a variable, the first thing I do is I look to see, is there anything that's being added or subtracted that could be moved first? So because 9 is positive, I'm going to subtract it. So I have 4 over x is equal to negative 7 minus 9 is going to give me a negative 16. Okay, so now I have 4 over x equals negative 16. I need to eliminate my denominator, so that means I have to multiply both sides by x. My x is over here, cross out, and I'm left with 4 is equal to negative 16x. So now I can divide by negative 16, divide by negative 16. And so 4 divided by negative 16. Since I'm dividing and I'm going to end up with a fraction answer, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it in reduced form. So that is going to give me 1 over negative 4 is equal to x. or x is equal to 1 over negative 4. Any questions on that? Okay, let's look at one where I have an x and an x squared. Now, I can go ahead and I could move something first if I wanted to, but since every term has a variable in the denominator, I'm going to go ahead and clear those variables before I even start moving anything. The reason I moved my 9 first was because it was not a fraction, so I could go ahead and deal with those and be done with it. This time, since every single term is a fraction, I want to clear my fractions first. So remember, I've got x here, I've got x squared and x. And I have to look at which of those will each term divide evenly into, and that's going to be my x squared. So that means I'm multiplying each term by x squared. So when I multiply x times 13 over x, remember that would be like 13x squared divided by x minus 2x squared over x squared equals negative 1x squared over x. Okay? Now this is where I can cancel, and so I have x squared in my numerator and x in the denominator. So x divided by x is 1, and x squared divided by x would just give me x. X squared divided by x cancels out. That would be 1. And then x squared again divided by x, that cancels out to be 1, and that becomes a 1 as well. So now I've ended up with 13x minus 2 equals negative x. Any questions about how I got there so far? All right, so now I need to move my negative x. I'm going to move it by adding. So I have 14x minus 2 is equal to 0. When I had negative x and I added x, negative x plus x is 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that 0 there. Now I'm going to add 2 to each side, and 14x is equal to 2. Divide both sides by 14, divide by 14, and x is equal to 1 over 7. So we had to clear those denominators. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to let these 2 problems be homework. And today is 12/3. And we are actually going to wrap up a little early today. I'm sure you were terribly disappointed to hear that. So what we'll do is, since we're at the end of this section, I don't want to go any further just yet. I want you to practice on clearing those denominators with that homework. So homework activities 3, you're going to need to simplify before you start solving for your inequality. And number 4, you're going to use those first 2 that we did as models to do the second 2. Questions?
Are we doing both in the book?
Yes, you can do them both in the textbook. So when you turn in homework next week on Monday, that list that I sent y'all the email of that we went over at the beginning of class, that will be your last set of homework to turn in for this grading period. Okay, so all of our inequality work that we do in the textbook will just be in the textbook. On Monday, I'll give you the packet. And that packet, you'll work on it, and then you'll send that to me. So we won't have any notebook paperwork on inequalities. You can do all of it in your textbook. Okay. So all of the homework that we have for tonight, or until next week, is page 102, activities 3 and activities 4. I will still send you the answers so you can check them. So you can make sure before we have class on Monday, you can go ahead and check those answers so you can know to ask questions. On Monday, we will be picking up with lesson 47, which you can see is solving inequalities using multiple steps. That's why we were reviewing clearing denominators, because now in lesson 47, we're going to clear denominators when we're dealing with inequalities. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with on Monday, is lesson 47, working with multiple steps where we have to clear denominators and decimals. And then Lessons 48 and 49 is dealing with inequalities and absolute values. And so on Monday, we will work with lessons 47, 48, and 49. We will wrap that up on Thursday. And then on Thursday, we're also going to look at graphing inequalities. So I know we finished our unit on graphing, but we are going to look at how graphing an inequality is different than graphing a regular equation, but it won't be a whole lot of information. Okay. Uh-oh, I lost the kings. Let's see. All right. So real quick review. Homework, page 102, activities 3 and 4 in your workbook. Okay, in your workbook, finish it, check it, have it ready for Monday. Monday, we'll keep on working on inequalities. I'll pass out your packets and we will wrap things up next week with inequalities and get out for Christmas. Okay, so if you have any questions before next Monday, please don't hesitate to let me know. Get your homework all checked and corrected and make sure it's all in order and stapled together, ready for Monday so you can hand it in and make 100% on that. And if you have any questions, just let me know and enjoy your extra little bit of time today and have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Bye, Miss Jennifer.
Bye. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.